You get a sentence,
non-recovery person.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Both are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
You can drink like a gentleman.
Oh, good for you, man.
Or do you drink?
yeah,
Yeah.
I do. And
Yeah.
I drink.
Heavily?
No, I'm thinking like once every 2 months,
Oh yeah.
a couple beers at a poker night with men.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's not. I don't enjoy drinking.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
David, you count down
Yeah.
10, 9,
Yeah,
8,
that's an
7,
that's what we call
6,
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3.
My wife's that
2,
way.
1.
She'll have a drink, and then months go by, or a month goes by, and she'll have a drink. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Usually me encouraging her to have a drink.
yeah, please.
That's the way he gets what he wants. Not so much in my house.
It's not tequila, I swear.
You're swilling. Got the umbrella on top of the cocktail.
I
No.
stir a glass and go, oh, sorry.
How long have you been out there?
6 years.
Wow, man.
We celebrated our 6-year open in August.
Check,
14th.
check.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. We're very. We've done it very organic. We're have the accreditation to spend money on Google, but we haven't. And then we don't have a BD rep. I hired one. He's starting Monday.
Cool.
Just to bring more awareness to the community that we're an option, what we're doing.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I
yeah.
said. I mean, in this area, I've always felt like I've had a good communication with the recovery community, especially centers. I mean, I work with a bunch of centers, so
Sure.
that's why I said I'm surprised that our paths haven't crossed. So we'll probably further this after the show.
Cool.
Get to know each other a little bit better.
Good.
David gets all his business from my show.
Yes.
98%.
I'm the plug.
No, I'm the plug.
Oh no, you are the plug.
It makes sense that you would, right? They get a sense of, I can. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
my guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like, that's what I like about, like, we're like this center thing, and a lot of people connect through us, you know? A lot of people who you wouldn't see, like Kara and Ricky, who would have never crossed paths if they didn't sit
That
in
was so good too. That
Yeah,
was a
now
good
they're like
episode.
homies.
They're like, hey man, we're going this weekend. You see them in pictures together. And
Yeah.
Alex is like, I just love Ricky. Is one of my favorite people, man.
Ricky's like a NA biker, black dude, you know, just the most genuine guy you can meet. And Kara's this therapist. She's same way. Well, you probably met Kara, right?
I saw the podcast with her.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
And Ricky, he kind of like handles all the entertainment for the recovery community.
Okay.
He throws all the events. He hands out community awards.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, a couple
every
right
man, 2 or
Okay.
3. Yeah, he got a couple of them right there. So
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, he'll do just regular people who are just doing good stuff. And he throws these parties and then gives them an award. Like,
That's cool.
yeah, it's really cool. All right, David.
yes.
Reed, you got a problem if we pray it in? Is that all right with you?
No.
All right. Why don't you pray us in?
Father God, we thank you, Lord. We thank you for this moment and this time to sit together and get to know each other. And we thank you for a platform created for a community that needs to be guided, needs to learn, and needs the information, Lord. And I pray that you give us the ability to give that information and understanding out. And we do it in a way that's pleasing to you, Father. I thank you for these two gentlemen that I haven't met until today. I thank you for their presence in my life. And I pray, God, that this works out and it's just something that you can be happy that we're doing. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I did that into the microphone for no reason, didn't I? I was like making
habit.
sure my mouth was,
You know, I mean, the Lord sometimes need a little help.
little
you know
mic,
what I'm saying?
little speaker,
Hello.
little speaker
Hello.
action.
You didn't hear me when I was on my knees. Let me get this microphone.
Hold on, let me grab the mic and tell you, Lord, what I mean here. My prayer.
All right. We ready? We rolling? Oh, we got social media going.
No, man, there's so much happening right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Most High Show. I'm your host, Reverend Christian Jansen. Of course, we got David Ja Cleope
Yo.
in the building. I think Leslie's doing quality control.
Let's hope so.
We got Kale producing. We got Kellen on the ones and twos. And we have a special guest here in the seat of service, or as David calls it, the decadent. Seat of service. Reed Smith. Reed Smith is the founder and co-owner of Centered Recovery Drug and Alcohol Addiction Treatment Centers. Reed began in the field of addiction first as a director of admissions and interventionist, but quickly became highly sought out for teaching and training for his unusual wit
We'll see. We'll see how that
and
unfolds.
expertise in mindfulness. Reed is an internationally known speaker in the field of drug and alcohol addiction and mindfulness. Welcome, Reed Smith, to the Most High
All
Show.
Yeah.
right, Reed. Thank you, man.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for being
having
here,
me.
brother.
Appreciate it.
We were catching up. I was asking him where he grew up and kind of music he liked. David, if you had to guess what Reed liked in high school, what would you think was his music?
Well, how old are you?
47.
Okay, so we're close to the same age. I would say, were you into like in your teenage years, Pearl Jam and Nirvana?
I enjoyed those. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you the Dead?
No.
Not really. Hip hop?
No.
Van Halen was his favorite.
Oh, Van Halen.
David
all right.
Lee Roth, Van Halen.
Oh, not
I like
Sammy Hagar.
too. Yeah.
Wait, but David Lee Roth was such a front man, though.
Oh man,
You know, it was like he could sing and he had the moves. Sammy Hagar didn't provide.
but
that.
Sammy Hagar could sing.
He could sing, but
Yeah.
he didn't have the antics. He couldn't make.
Oh, my God.
You couldn't make a music video.
Yeah.
like you could with David Lee.
He
Roth.
ain't jumping off the roster like
Yeah.
David Lee Roth was.
Doing a split kick.
Might as
or whatever
well hop.
in tights.
Go ahead and skip.
Here's the splits in the air.
So
Eddie Vedder's freaking Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen,
Yeah.
badass guitarist.
Yeah, for sure.
all right, so I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna digress from that.
But I will say, I did get offended when they were like, back in those days, they were like, yeah, but if Eddie Van Halen would do the national anthem now at the Star Spangled Banner at the new Woodstock, I was like, nah, bruh, don't take that. You can't take that from Jimmy.
But did you hear Chris Stapleton do the national anthem at
On
was-
guitar?
Yeah, last year, and he sang it,
No.
and at the Super Bowl. Oh my God!
But he got a national
It rivaled
anthem.
Whitney's
Yeah.
performance.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh, you got to Google it. I'm
We're going to
telling
have to
you,
do a
you
comparison.
got to Google it.
Okay, let's digress. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Let's
All right.
digress.
So
Love Chris Stapleton.
Reed got connected with us. Wes, our friend Wes, connected us.
Oh,
and,
okay. Dr. West, who knows all the
Dr. Wes,
famous
yes,
publishers
who just got photographed with Alice Cooper. Speaking of rock musicians, and
They're
Kale
cool
was
like
like, "What's
that.
this Dr. West just casually posing with Alice
Yeah,
Cooper?
no big deal.
No big deal."
Yeah, that's my dog.
But what I also, when I was like, "Hey, you want to come be on the show?" His response was, "Yeah, but I'm weird." You remember saying that?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Thanks for the warning, man.
And I was like, "Perfect. This is what you're our people. You're in."
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this centered recovery, which is what you have here set up in Roswell, Georgia, is mindfulness is kind of at the, I don't know, say center of it. I want to know, before we get into that, what you're doing there, I want to know how you personally got into mindfulness. What was your journey into that as a practice, as a way of life?
Sure. I was introduced to a book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. It's a short book, but it's a slow read.
Okay.
And after reading it, I had a neighbor that asked if I meditated, and I was like, no, I've never done that, but I'm open to doing that. And so I started meditating, and in doing so, had some insights And these insights are things that were obvious to others, including my wife. But it was something that I was operating without an awareness of. And one was, I thought I'd always been a people pleaser. So I'd always been, my skill was being able to make you feel comfortable, right? At the expense of injury here, right? But there wasn't awareness of that either. So I saw that the truth of it, it sounded good, like a pat on the back. I couldn't do that to that person, right? That kind of thing. It sounds like we're doing them a service. And I saw the ugly truth of my situation, at least, was that if I live from the paradigm that I can please you, then the opposite is true. I look to you to please me. So my happiness and my fill in the blanks, whatever you want to call it, had been looked upon as coming from the world and other people. And I saw that was false. So.
You got that from one meditation?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I cry. My life has changed in a moment. It'll take time in the material world for it to be expressed right, in the body.
Yeah.
But mentally, there was direct knowledge of this and operating from that. And my wife was like, "Oh my gosh, you didn't know that?" Like when we dated, I would say, who am I going out with tonight? Am I going out with you or am I going out with Mark? Right? Because I would become these other people without she was saying it before we even got married. So she was just like, I don't know how this could affect you like this. I was like, you don't have to know, right? But it did, and it was permanent. And that was kind of the thing that said, the key that ordinarily isn't considered is awareness as something to be aware of, whereas ordinarily the experience is one of being aware of, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
I'm interested. I don't mean to dig further into it because you're saying yourself that it was unbeknownst to you that these changes were occurring to you, right? Because some people were making you aware of it, right? You're saying you came to an understanding of like this revelation of I'm a people pleaser. I don't want to be like that no more, basically, right?
No. Yes and no.
Okay.
So the action was not in not wanting to be like that anymore. The action was seeing that there was an energy expended in a wasteful manner that was no longer necessary.
Come on.
Ended it. Yeah.
Come on.
It wasn't trying to.
This ain't the first time you meditated.
This is the first week.
Really?
Yeah.
It's very rare. But there are a lot of people, I've heard that there are some people who they have that ability to tap in meditation. And so it seems like you might have been one of these people.
Things happen.
Yeah.
I generally have insights.
Yeah.
And things that
Yeah.
alter the way that I show up in a physical way.
Yeah. The rest of us got to smoke weed. You know what I mean?
Something.
We got to meditate a lot longer
We got to meditate.
get that.
Yeah.
To get that
I
understanding.
mean, that's
amazing.
fascinating.
Yeah,
that
I
you had that insight. Yeah, the people pleasing thing. That's that's a dangerous thing, right? Especially when, like what you said, the inverse of that, that when you are people pleasing, you're also then inadvertently you're expecting others to please you.
You depend on it.
That creates a lot of chaos, right?
Can, right?
Yeah.
A lot of disappointment.
Yeah.
Oh, I did all this for you. I was expecting a nice pat on the back for it.
Yeah.
But you didn't even notice.
I cooked all this food.
Right. Well, people pleasing, I mean, honestly, that's a really complex thing in my head, to work out in a way where you stop being like that. That's a big change
Yeah.
in somebody to like notice that and say, because it's such a way of being, and there is a like there is a payoff of like people liking you because you're pleasing them, right? You get a lot of good feedback from being that character of a person, you know. So it's easy to become that way, but to face that and say, you know what, this is not even me. I'm not. I'm doing this for a payoff that I shouldn't even be expecting from somebody, and to make that change from not doing that, it's hard to kind of like grasp all that. You know what the change even looks like,
So,
because in my head it's almost like no, sorry.
yeah, go the
You know
other
what
way.
I mean? It's almost like, oh, what you need? Well, usually I would, take care of these needs, but not today.
Swing the other way.
Yeah.
So you had the awareness, but now making the adjustment, was that separate?
No. The reason is the insight. An insight is this aha moment at a level beyond abstraction.
Wow.
Right? It's not an abstract thing. This isn't about adding to a box that already exists. Right? This is something that influences the use of what's in the boxes.
Oh, whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Break that down.
Break that
So
down.
Break it down.
It's gaining knowledge that's tacit, so not put into words, that operates in an actionable way, like riding a bicycle, but you can't tell someone how to do it.
It's like would be an inner knowing, an instinct.
No. It's the brain having an awareness of its own operation, and then in its operation, which is involved in producing who we imagine ourselves to be,
Yeah.
it influences that. So the you is appears different. It is different without effort of trying to be different.
From the insight.
From knowledge gained at this level, which is just insightful learning, right? So learning always takes place where attention is. Not always, but tends to, right?
Right.
Pay attention, learn.
Focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So paying attention to some areas, the learning that takes place operates at a fundamental level prior to the production of a thought-created you.
Damn, I would. We got that right. We recorded that. I'm gonna rewind that.
what?
I'm gonna
No, dude, that's
clip that.
Yeah, we gonna be. Me and David are gonna be taking notes on this. That's
That's good.
Okay.
That's real good.
I
So
think
it begins. In fact, you said a word that prevents this from unfolding
Okay.
is note-taking.
Uh-huh.
And it's because we've been conditioned, right, in taking notes and writing what's important. But the moment that thought responds as this is noteworthy, there is now a note taker rather than listening. So
I don't have to listen. I wrote it down. I can refer back to it at my own convenience.
So let's say if I put it in different words, like I would call it like my language would be for it's like spirit mind and binary mind. Like the binary mind is the note taker, the one that's expressing, or some people would call it ego and
Okay.
spirit. Is that getting close to kind of what you're talking about?
no.
Come on, let's go.
We'll make this so practical that there's no leaps necessary. Just like someone can teach you to play the piano, right? Someone can teach you how to hold your body in a golf swing, and then the doing of it, you develop a sensitivity to it. Mm-hmm. Our minds have been addressed in a particular way, and this is generating more and more. I won't say anything about that. It hasn't brought about a solution. Fair enough?
Okay.
So, rather than looking at the particular, which is what appears in thought, we explore what is beyond thought. And in doing so, just the exploration alone shines light, right? And the brain has this.
It's almost like It's almost like I feel that you're saying, like, let your instinctual mind do what it's supposed to do, something like that.
No.
It's
because
like
there's-
me and David are going like,
It's not.
How do we break this down in a 5th grade level?
Okay.
Because
I'm
We'll do
trying.
that. No, that's the problem.
Okay.
So let's begin.
Let's
I
begin.
love it. Yes. Come on.
So most of the time, right? Like we're sitting here, and even if none of you are communicating with your outward voice, right? No one's inwardly shy. Everybody's just sitting there. Tick, 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 tick. Okay, notice that. That's where we begin. We notice that. We notice that there's an inner dialogue that is unfolding in consciousness, right? The good news is you're not the one doing it. Okay? The doing of it is producing you.
Oh, okay.
You with me? It's going on.
I don't know,
It's
but I'm
going
trying.
on. It's going on. It's
Yeah.
going on. So what might that mean? The body, which includes this brain, right, is breathing itself and digesting food. There's hearing happening without a listener, and then thought produces the listener. In the brain, as a reflex, a response from memory, and thought rises. So you can imagine in this perceiving unfolding now, as attention is directed or involuntarily grabbed, right, by whatever, thought reflexes. And it's a evolutionary superpower that humans have, so we don't have to relearn all the time. Tying shoes. You see a police car, right? You make sure you're doing the speed limit. These are reflexes, okay? It's not you doing them. They're just going on. When I was talking to Christian's wife, Leslie, what I imagine happens in consciousness there is she said, I don't think myself into anxiety, right? So this would mean that a human being is in this perceiving now. They're going about their experience. They're smelling things, thought rises. Hearing things, thought rises. Seeing things, thought rises. If we see that it's a reflex and not us doing it, then there only need be one domino, right? Because beyond that is more thought. So this innate intelligence, this system, is intending to correct itself since we were little, and we've misunderstood it. And we're labeling what appears as a display, and the means by which we're trying to solve all of these emotional problems is the source. It's just more thought, right? So you got to explore what's beyond thought in order to gain a new map inwardly as to how thought functions to consider, right?
Whoa. Where were you when I got sober, dude? That would have been some really good information.
Isn't it? It's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
There's the body from being asleep, right? It becomes alert. So awareness is now aware of an alert body. And then the brain, boom, it begins. And thought
So
begins.
do
It's
you
not
do you take thought as like an interference of things, of a natural flow of things?
I think that our material world should be used as determining the feedback of whether it's acting in an appropriate way, right? Like, is it coherent? Is it creating coherence and harmony and beauty and order, right? We tend to treat the world as if it's independent of what produced it, which is man's thought, right? And it continues to sustain it in the society that we live in. And then we're saying, well, we look at it as if it's separate from our production.
Wow.
That's why it doesn't change.
Like when people saying, I want to go spend some time in nature, and it's like saying, like, I want to be in my body. Like, it's like everything is, it's like having to
You're
go
getting it.
somewhere.
See, he got it.
Well, I
Kel,
was-
you're dude. Kel's freaking smart, bro.
I was thinking of like at first I thought about the chicken and the egg, right? Like what came first? It's like you kind of say, what's the thing you say about man? You said it years ago. Like I am the thought, I'm the thinker, the self, something the self.
Yeah. I am not my thoughts.
No, I am the self experiencing. When you said it's a reaction to it, kind of like was like, oh, because it's like it just happens, and I'm perceiving that I'm this like thing, like I think all this stuff, but it's just he's saying it's a reaction, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'm not crazy. You know what I mean? Like it was almost a calming feeling because I think I'm this producer of chaos, but I'm just reacting to my past experiences, which then means if I can learn new experiences, these habits, then maybe I don't have to think such chaotic, scary stuff all the time, I guess.
And even when it appears, understanding that alone alters its meaning. Yeah, it means something different now. It's no longer the burden of you to change it.
Man. All right. I'm going to keep moving with the show notes.
Does anybody want any hallucinogenics? Now's the time to
Can I please have
Buckle
the
up.
nearest psychedelic to get what's going on here?
Yeah. Mushrooms near me. All right. So here now, all I'm going to do. Here's my thinking mind putting together show notes here, which I feel is ridiculous now.
Notes.
But mindfulness. I got into mindfulness that I was telling you about through my interfaith seminary. Right, It was the first time I was exposed to it, and so I wanted to pull a couple things from some ancient practices of this. Right. And so there's something from the Bhagavad Gita, which says one. This is the Hindu scripture. One who abandons all desire and becomes free from longing, and the feeling of I and my attains peace. And then let's compare that to right mindfulness in Buddhism, which is part of the Eightfold Path. Right mindfulness is to be diligently aware, mindful and attentive with regard to 1, the activities of the body, 2, sensations or feelings, 3, the activities of the mind, and 4, ideas, thoughts, and concepts and things. And then, not to leave out Christianity, but Christianity doesn't consider themselves as a mindful practicer. But I'd like to quote the general here, Jesus in Matthew 6:6. He says, "Go to your inner room, close the door, and pray to your Father in secret," which is a quote people will point to talk about mindfulness. So taking what you were just explaining, and then now with this kind of ancient literature that has informed so many, let's keep talking about it.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So in the Bhagavad Gita, right, they're talking about peace of mind without the sense of I or me or my. They said my.
Yeah.
Right. I think that people, when experiencing what is referred to as peace of mind, that is one that if they had a magic wand would want more of. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of effort and resources are put towards helping bring that about for people. I have found that it's one way to get at this is to bring into awareness some operations that are functioning currently that could allow for energy to be saved that currently is being spent. And in the absence of spending that energy, consciousness remains. Consciousness remains in the stirring with thought operating without an awareness of how it operates, right? And then consciousness remains when there is an understanding that allows for a relaxation of thought's operation, producing unhealthiness in the organism, this physical body. So, peace of mind, people that come to Centered constantly report. We've got a lady last week, and her words were, "I just feel less heavy," right? She ain't on a diet, right? But this is functioning in a way that isn't producing additional stress in the organism. Seeing that it's thought and extending the meaning of thought to include the body, right, and its sensations, and then looking at thought as being the past participle of thinking. So you're not experiencing feelings often because you're experiencing the past participle of feelings, which is felt.
What's participle?
Like thinking is a present tense activity, right? And then thought would refer to what has been thought, what appeared in thinking, or maybe not even in thinking, right? But what appeared in thought.
Yeah.
And then it gets represented in the present.
Yeah. With that same filter or lens.
Yeah, it carries the meaning.
Yeah.
Thought is just an instrument, one that we have. We've got the body too, right?
Yeah.
That communicates meaning.
Right.
So meaning is it's important to look into, to get a sense of the meaning of meaning.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, like maybe that's like thinking why a lot of men have a hard time. I've just been noticing this, that men that I've been working with have a hard time feeling sad. And so they just kind of skip over sad and go right to mad. It's because something about the meaning of what sad feeling is maybe too hard or too traumatizing or too much to feel, because that feeling takes them back to maybe the first times they felt sad, and it was so much to deal with that they just skip over sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just feel weak.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Or
have
just
a-
have no idea how to even, you
Okay.
don't even know you're doing it.
Yeah.
So they get mad, right? A lot of people have issues for anger.
I've been trying to help him for
Yeah.
a while now with his. Please keep talking.
Good luck.
So I think that when thought begins to label its creations as something other than thought, like mad or angry, right? Sad, all of these words, that it's to have an insight that operates at a general level, you need to look at a general level, which means leave all the particulars, the details of what thought has accumulated in knowledge psychologically in a self-referential way to produce me.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
I'm not going to. It's less likely to experience deep insights operating using thought in like the narrative of me and time, right? That's so instead of calling instead of using the words like mad or angry, but for instance, someone could see this easily for themselves. If anger is a common thing, right? Somebody just pulls out in front of you, right? They don't know how to roundabout. I experienced that.
Yeah.
Right? I experienced that. It's just I know that it is coming from thought in the moment and has nothing to do with the person.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm free from it after I keep going. I'm not carrying that with, it doesn't stay. So anger is something that happens, tends to be something that somebody can remember something that made them angry. Right? Okay. So the
There's
exercise.
utility in that. in remembering something that made you angry, right? There's a utility in that.
To learn a lesson that prevents having to deal with it in the future in the same way.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
In that, if you recall, maybe your last angry was too recent, right? Because people get in patterns, right? They don't find any shortage of reasons to be angry. So let's go back a couple of days or whatever, right?
Right.
And recall intentionally, deliberately, the scenario, right? If you can visualize it, fantastic. If you can't, then use the words to call up this anger. But when you do, you're doing it with an awareness, not being interested in what made you angry, but to see when this is intentionally represented in consciousness, the key, the learning takes place, and seeing what it does. See what it does, right? Because the moment that there's a connection made that thought is feeling and not separate from it, and we probably shouldn't even call it feeling, right? Just sensations in the body and the brain. Thought's a material process in the brain. It's not spiritual. It's going on, right? It's just happening. So it makes sense that the body has all these intelligent reflexes to maintain its survival. Like you can't hold your breath until you pass out, right? When you sneeze and there's a gag reflex, there's this one on the knee, I don't know what it's called, but you also have this incredible thought reflex. And so thought's operating in the brain, and then the chemistry fires off, providing feedback as to how thought is operating, not what you think, well, not what you're thinking about. How thought is operating is a system in the body.
Yeah.
It's very impersonal. Looking at thought this way,
Yeah.
we're looking at it
I dig that, yeah.
very bland,
Right.
hospital food. We're looking
Yeah.
at it so that we, in fact, have even lifted it up enough to see that the polarities are also thought, negative, positive. So for me, I came up with just referring to it as it can appear unhealthy, right? In the same way, temperature is the temperature. It just is what it is. But to this particular organism, it likes sunny and 72. You know what I mean? And so thought, as long as you see that it's what's producing all of this, then it cuts the umbilical cord to looking outside of yourself to change what's going on in here.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah.
It's kind of like it's kind of like what you were talking about, depending on people to please you, like having that dependence outside of yourself to get this pleasing that's internally in you.
Yeah.
That's what you should be depending on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to get self-confidence and self-esteem and all
Yeah.
of this, this whole help work in the world, which is good intentioned, is all based on a fundamental assumption that there is a self that exists that's capable of improving and changing and all this, right? We have it completely backwards. We say that we're self-conscious, but really it's consciousness of this movement, and what's going on up there.
I feel like we have a Alan Watts reincarnate in the studio right now.
Yeah. Fascinating. All right. And I think some of what you're talking about is kind of how, with Buddhism, how it breaks it down, mindfulness, to activities of the body, sensations and feelings, activities of the mind, and it's separating activities of the mind from ideas, thoughts, concepts, and things. So it's kind of, it's making, it's acknowledging that mindfulness is paying attention to all these kind of different systems that are at play, and that because I found in my own growth, I can be more mindful of I guess I'll have seasons or periods where I might be more mindful of one of those things, right? Like the negative thoughts, right, that used to pop in, right, and then I'd believe it, right? Like I tell Kale, I've told you several times, don't stop believing everything you think, right? Like when I think it, then it's must be true,
Yeah.
right? And so the ability to have the thought go in and then not take action or continue on that. Action can be thinking more about it, right? To just the thought comes in, and sometimes it's like I've even physically just shake my head, or just to go, whoa, shake that thing out of my hair, and then move on, because I've enough experience, and what I mean by experience is enough banging my head against the wall, trying to change it, where it's like, okay, it is what it is. It happens. It happened. Now it's gone. And so I'm not taking my own bait in a sense, right? On some things. Yeah.
Well,
All right.
would you be able to, can you give us your definition of mindfulness?
Yes. However, I think that people are trying to be mindful.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I think our energy is better spent exploring what is preventing one from having that space of being mindful, right? People are trying to schedule in mindfulness, right?
12 o'clock mindfulness meeting.
Yeah.
Everybody gathered around.
Yeah, yeah. So it really, once again, it comes back to exploring the nature of thought, thinking, attention, awareness, knowledge, how all this is functioning, and the side effects or, things that come with that are being mindful. And people, it's just, is almost universal. Like it, and even if someone's listening to us right now and they're not necessarily connected all the dots,
Right.
it does take clock time, spending time in this conversation, right? But you are already primed, right? But imagine someone just coming in, ordinary person off the street.
Right.
They would understand this, being in this conversation, usually with us within 3 weeks, easy, life-changing epiphanies.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's all about this aha moment. That's what it is. But the aha moment is simply the result of learning in this direction.
Yeah.
What do you think stops that? Because I stops that learning process from happening, because so many people, I mean, one of the things I often hear when meditation is even suggested, I can't sit still. I can't do it. My mind's always racing. I can't even, the thought of doing it makes me cringe. Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of funny that I said the thought of doing it.
It's possibly, and probably to a large degree, that they're just not a serious person. If you're serious about anything, if you're serious about staying, in shape, I don't like love that, but it's necessary. If you want to be a rock climber or something, or play golf, you in a meaningful way, right?
Right.
Anything that you means something to you and has value and significance, you're going to find the energy for. And if you have someone respected that you respect and says, I can aid you, help yourself, right? Which includes you sitting for 5 minutes. If they're not interested in that, they're not ready for this conversation.
At least putting towards the effort of trying it is what.
Yeah, don't even try. Just
Yeah.
sit there. There's meditation nowadays with Spotify that are available that are just, they're silk. I mean, there's so many options. There's so many great people that are making livings
Pushing
doing
this,
this that probably were great, and now they're like, oh, yeah. And when they do it a couple of times, it pays dividends in a big way. It puts a scent on you, and as you move through your day, that scent.
I feel like meditation has really made an impact on my life in a very good way, right? But I don't feel like I'm doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, if I go, I'm able to, block things out, center myself, get an understanding of a better understanding of my body. And it's not really that I understand my body. It's almost like I'm taking the time out to notice these parts of my body, even my breathing. If I'm meditating and I kind of go off, I focus on my breathing again. And when I focus on my breathing again, I feel a healing. I feel something healing happening to me just because I am able to do it. I'm listening to it, and in the process of listening to it, I feel like the other things around me are kind of like going away, and that makes me feel good.
Listening to it. What do you mean? Listening to what?
Like things around me. Like let's say there's something like there's cars driving by or something like that, right? And it's anything that's distracting me that I feel is distracting me. When I focus on listening to my breathing, there's a healing piece of that makes those other things kind of like not. It doesn't give the stuff attention that's distracting me, and then I when I focus in more on my breathing, just the in and out of it, and just the actual doing it, I feel like I'm doing the right thing by doing that. And usually when I'm meditating is I'm trying to not be distracted about things around me. I'm trying to get away from those things and trying to get smaller. You know what I mean? And then when I do it, and I do it for a long enough time, I like guided meditations too. When it puts me in a place and I'm able to actually see the places that they're asking me to go to and things like that. That does something that's really healing to me too. And then when I'm done, I feel better. Now, but I'm listening from you because I don't feel like I'm catching the depth of like what you're speaking, and I want to understand that and it's really how did this happen in a week or 3 meditations? That's such a revelation of your understanding of things becomes so life changing.
Okay. Yeah.
I hope I didn't mean to talk that long.
No, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Because you're probably not the only person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have to consider the type of change that we're talking about. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't learning a language. It's not getting in shape.
Mm-hmm.
It's not moving to a different place.
Yeah.
Okay. So these types of changes that ordinarily are experienced in this material world it's just our common everyday experience, right? If I want to change the color of my room, I got to paint it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've borrowed this logic and this understanding of how change takes place, and we've attempted to inwardly bolt that on. It's not the right lug pattern. Okay? The change that we're talking about is expressed in chronological time, but it occurs only here and now without the thinking mind active. So perceiving will remain. We talk about just this conversation alone robs some of the energy that ordinarily thought operates in. Talking about thought, it slows down. So this type of change is a eureka moment.
Yeah.
Bill W. had a spiritual awakening, right? There were no 12 steps before.
He had that moment, right?
Right. He had that moment. So this is helpful. This is something for our map. Now we know it's not in time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to change tomorrow. Okay?
Right.
So thought can no longer create an imagined future where change will be brought about. That's useful. That frees up some energy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the where of it, right? People are like, I need to go to India and live in a cave and all this stuff. or whatever, right? I need to go in nature.
I need a
right?
retreat.
I think nature is great because it doesn't produce the mirror of us having been there, right?
Yeah.
So that thought has difficulty operating there in that way. But it can will only ever happen here and now. This is good news, because then suddenly it's like, well, what's this functioning that's producing inward time that's preventing an awareness of here and now? This movement of thought in the brain.
Gail is over here having epiphanies.
Are you seeing things? Are you seeing things?
No, when you said it can only happen here or now, after everything you said, it's like if I'm thinking into the future currently about my epiphany that I will have. But the more thought I have, the further away I am from the epiphany. Yeah. But that in itself is an epiphany. So what is that? I mean, it's the same thing.
So learning is taking place.
Okay.
Learning is taking place. You develop a sensitivity of how to move the body, right? You got potty trained, right? You developed a sensitivity to that. You're developing a sensitivity to how your mind works.
So, but for this moment, this eureka moment, you're saying it can only happen in the here and now. And I guess I assumed that meant in the state that David was trying to talk about achieving, which is nothing, right? The what I guess I could be ignorantly saying is nirvana. But just the emptying of the empty conscience.
Well, consciousness remains full, right? But it's no longer full of crap. It's no longer. and when it is, we have these new senses to smell it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Dude, that's really good, man.
Yeah.
That's really good.
You begin to just see how this programming is just producing a me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We feel like we operate from the viewpoint that there is like a me here, right? And I'm the CEO. I'm the thought just comes and I can choose to take it or not. And we think that the feelings go through me, but really we don't have an experience of that. There's just this going on and an awareness of it, and then thought just is operating, not knowing how it operates, and producing tremendous conflict inwardly. And when one is confused and imagines that my inward conflict is somehow coming from fill in the blank, then we look outwardly.
So for you to come to these, I'm scared to use words here because I use the wrong word. Whatever
Oops,
word it is.
wrong again.
Understanding or whatever.
Right.
Like,
That's so good.
what's that been like? I mean, did you read, or is it coming through your practice? Has it taken time, like you said, clock time?
Yeah.
Like what's been that process for you to because it sounds like this is what you're implementing at Centered Recovery.
This is what we teach.
This is what you teach. So you at some point had to re-engage the thinking mind to create the PDFs and print it all out and all that. So when you were putting together that thing, but what got you to that place to say, okay, here's the framework that we're going to present to begin this process for somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2013, I helped open up a residential treatment center. I had a huge epiphany. So I was friends with the guys who opened it, and they were like, Reed, somehow can you, let's figure out how to teach this. So I started teaching in 2013, and I had no idea, right? We would just sit down, and then I would just listen to people talk, right, where they think that their problems are, and then we just start there. And my wife started teaching at the treatment center, and she taught every morning, Monday through Friday, from 9 to noon. and then I would teach groups, and people started having massive breakthroughs where they were completely different without effort of trying to be different, right? Which is why it sticks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we worked together, and my wife and I worked for 4 years to develop a curriculum to communicate this.
Yeah.
And then we left that residential center and moved to here. An open center.
But leading up to 2013, what was that process for you, piecing it together internally to know? Because to me, it's like, before you go and teach something, right, you want to let it sink, and you're like, it, it's you, and whatever you is.
Sure.
Easy with that
Hey,
you
careful.
thing,
Careful
all
with
right?
that language you're using.
Whoa. Take it easy.
So what was that process like? Yeah.
Well, I think everybody that has epiphanies, well, I'm not going to speak about it. I credited like these books and my meditation practice. This James Allen, he wrote As a Man Thinketh, but then he went on. That was like his 6th book. I think he had 16 books. So you can buy Mind is the Mastery on Amazon, and it's this thick. And so I bought that, and I just started reading it and doing everything he said. And I read that book multiple times. It changed my life. And so I thought, if someone reads this, right,
They got it.
You got it.
You got
So
just like I did.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
told my wife, because my wife realized, she said, this is crazy. There's no way you can be like this, like permanently. And I was like, I'm not doing anything to be like this. This is just, I guess, how I'm going to show up. And she goes, there's no way. So it took a few months, right? Because I've been married a decade. And she was like, oh, you're different. And you know what? It was seen that my experience was one of great lightness, right? Patience, which I previously didn't, And so she told me one day, she said, I feel like you're in Paris and you're just hanging out, picnicking by the Eiffel Tower, and the best you can do is tell me about the Eiffel Tower. She goes, I want to see it. I want to see it like you see it. So, of course, I tried to give her the book, right? And she read it with like, oh, I'm going to read this so I can
get it.
have this peace of mind that this guy is experiencing.
Right.
And she was like, oh my gosh, I can't read this. This is not me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What about this
right
page,
here.
right?
Yeah.
And she's like, no. So then I realized that, okay, that was my path or whatever, right? That helped me see some things.
Yeah.
But what I've seen is more universal. So I set out to try to find, the countless people who have seen these things that have talked about it. Because your consciousness, information is consumed at the level of your consciousness, right? The little kid watches Grease versus an adult, same movie, right?
Yeah.
Could be the same person 10 years later, and it's a different movie.
Yeah.
So when your consciousness includes these additional operations within its operation to look out for, your troubleshooting, then I could read things and they would connect to me at the depth of my level of understanding. And I was introduced to Ramana Maharshi. He was an Indian sage. I was introduced to Jiddu Krishnamurti, and then a physicist, and his name's Dr. David Bohm. And
The wide range of humans there. Yeah.
And the physicist was Oppenheimer's protege.
Oh.
He was Einstein referred to him as his spiritual son.
Wow.
They had correspondence and worked together at Princeton. And David wrote Quantum Theory in 1951.
Oh.
He was known for doing research in plasma research, but he always had an interest in metaphysics, the nature of reality. And while he was a professor, his wife got a book from the library called The First and Last Freedom. And this is a book by Jiddu Krishnamurti. And she says, I got this book for you because one of the chapters is called The Observer and the Observed. And I know you're into that because the double slit experiment had been done while he was a physicist. He was familiar with it, and he knew that there is a separation used to leverage the different aspects, but it was one unfolding movement. The observer is the observed. He saw that to be a fact. And so this Indian had also communicated that, but just with a spiritual lens.
Yeah.
And
Right, same definition, same understanding.
Same
just
understanding.
different angle.
So Bohm is realized that humanity's problems, name one, all of them, stem from thought's inability to be proprioceptive.
Wait, what's
Can you
proprius-
define that?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
that?
Like,
I'm listening. Okay.
your body is self-aware without bringing in a separate self. There's a no lag aware knowing of whether you moved your body or something else did.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it's known, right?
Yeah.
Directly. This is the nature of the body, and the mind may share a similar nature. It may operate without the need for a separate observer.
I feel like that's like the overarching message that you're giving here.
That's it.
Right?
Yes, that's right.
That it's all happening. You don't really got too much to do.
That's it.
You don't really got too much to do with it, you know.
Yeah.
I'm starting.
Okay.
I'm starting
Yeah,
to grab
this-
onto something here.
This exploration allows learning to bridge what previously was considered duality. And there's a collapse. I still feel myself as a reed in time. There's a me over here. I got this watch for y'all. Maybe it means something, right? But it's done with an awareness of what's going on. So a lot of people everybody loves Halloween, right? Because you get to dress up for a day with an awareness that you're not a werewolf, right? That would be weird. So just tons of people are wearing these thought-created characters, even when no one's around.
Yeah.
And to see that ends it.
Wow.
Can I?
Yeah. Go on.
Man, so I mean, you mentioned the double slit experiment, and for anyone who doesn't know, I think it's like particles act differently when observed and not observed, right?
Yeah.
But it got me thinking, like, this is going to be this without this making it be this, right? I'm going to be a human being without my brain telling me to be a human being. But it kind of goes back to this, when I try to be a human being, right? Like I have to be Kale. I have to be Kale.
Oh.
I just like stop being. I overthink myself into not being anything. Like I'm like. So I guess my question was, when I do try to observe myself, is that also possibly getting me further away from that?
Wrong question.
Okay.
That's okay, though.
There's wrong questions. I
Because
didn't know.
I think I see what you're asking,
Okay.
right? We get the sense that there's an inner, that there's two things going on. You ever watched different shows on your TV?
Sure.
Same TV?
Yeah.
Same basic things going on, right?
RGB.
Yeah. Thought conceals its activity by having operated from the notion that there is a being responsible for the thinking. Right? You can't. When one observes themselves, they don't take in consideration that all of what David Bohm refers to is the assumptions are doing the looking.
Oh.
Like, I was too hard on myself. I should have done it different. This is just more activity of thought producing this separate self. This isn't right or wrong. This isn't good or bad, but it's helpful to know. And for me, it's just the gauge of, is this appearing in an unhealthy way for this organism, right? And guess what? Maybe the moment demands it. Maybe you're dealing with something and there's an awareness of this system, but regardless, it's like, no, I need to deal with this situation, right? So this gives you more freedom to express your caringness to people in an honest way, right? And I think when it's done like that, I've tend to found that they hear it, right? It's like, no, this guy cares about me. He's bringing something on my radar, right? That previously wasn't there. So now I operate with that on my radar.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like you're already kind of answering what my next question was, which is like, is it helpful, right? Like, it could be true, but that's great. But is it helpful, right? And you're kind of getting to this ideal of is it healthy, right? So, how do you, when you're working with your clients and people, like, how do you help somebody? Do you define that for them? Do they define that for themselves? Like, what's this healthy?
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. Well, let's again kind of be super generic and go back to the temperature outside.
Yeah.
Right. The temperature, depending on the organism, determines on whether it's healthy for it.
Right.
Right. If you're sweating, or if you've got chill bumps, then this engages the body in a way to spend additional energy that ordinarily may not be necessary if the temperature is agreeable.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Same with thought. So thought is when cortisol's firing off, and stress chemicals, and your heart rate's elevated, and you're laying in bed at night with a full belly and your bills are paid.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that person
Keep
said
talking about that.
to me at work, right? Whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
That's an indicator. It's the body's intelligence. This enteric nervous system is ancient. It's far older, right?
Yeah.
Than this new thing that we got.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly intelligent. It's got 200 million neurons, same as a domesticated cat or dog. So there's a brain in this thing. And so I think when we fail to be available for intelligence, the body remains available. It just communicates, hey.
Yeah. So you're talking about the nervous system. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Okay.
This determines whether it's healthy or not. Because I'm not talking about healthy for, Wilbur and his story. I'm not talking about that, right?
Right.
We're looking under the story. Everybody's got a unique story. Everybody's got fingerprints, but we all got hands.
Yeah. Right. And I think there's been more recently paying attention to the nervous system. And I had heard there was an experiment, I might have said this on the show, but that they did an experiment that ultimately came to the conclusion that the nervous system was the determining factor whether the organism would contract a virus. That exposure to the virus wasn't the determiner to getting the infection. It was the health of the nervous system that was the determination. So someone who had a lot of external factors like, money problems, relation problems, those kind of things, their nervous system was more taxed. And so they were able to define that was the determining factor to whether or not someone would get infected.
Makes them more like susceptible to whatever's coming at them. Right?
Yeah, and I've cited that thing, and I should probably find like the actual study so I can actually bring it up. But and then reading other books, like we were talking before the show about Gabor Mate and this new book called The Myth of Normal, that there's more pointing to this nervous system which I think the health industry, the clinical industry hasn't, at least I've never had a doctor ask me about my stress levels or what's going on in my life and stuff like that. So that's kind of what you're getting at, is this nervous system. How do you monitor that? How do you know that? Like, in helping someone to know that, how do you help them to monitor that? Is it clinically? Is it blood work? Is it just talking to them? Like, how do you know?
Yeah, it's talking to them, right? Because people express unhealthiness in different ways. We'll refer to anger as if it's sustained, right? When there's no longer present evidence to support the anger, people get hot in the head or in the face or their chest. They feel their heart beating, or some people hold their breath prior to things kind of firing off. So helping them identify how these sensations show up for them so that they can be like, oh, and then that's in their awareness. So when that happens, they see that, oh, I am the anger. I'm not observing the anger. I am the anger. So instead of saying I'm angry, and then it's happy to project something, just angry thinking is present. This is an accurate statement, and it removes kind of the subject-object relationship. It just kind of identifies what's actually taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so with somebody's nervous system, kind of how you were explaining it, the nervous system being I guess, the lead in that, right? Communicating that to the thinking mind. So how do you heal that nervous system?
In the absence of doing that, I think it naturally, innately restores some type of health, right?
Yeah.
If you're no longer adding this daily stress, my blood pressure's gone down, right?
Yeah.
I'm just overall mentally available for other
She
people.
was like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons why rehab is like a thing, right? Like, because when you go to rehab, you're removing all those external stressors and factors, and
Stepping away from
you're
it.
stepping away from that to be able to deal with the internal world, ideally, right?
Yeah, ideally. However, if change is taken from the standpoint that that person is going to do it, I mean, the recidivism rates of drug offenders that spend time, right, is extremely high.
Yeah.
The kid who gets sent off to his uncle's farm in Montana for 6 months, right, and
Easy.
he's working
We know,
out.
we actually-
and-
He was actually sent to Montana.
Yeah.
Twice.
He
See?
did that.
Yeah.
2
We
times.
have a television series that's what it's about.
Okay.
Yeah.
but
That's
The
And
second
dude-
time was voluntary. The first time it was necessity.
there's until there's an education to consider regarding how the mind operates, then the way that the mind produced this actuality that would prefer to be different, the mind that produced it is still operating. It can't change it.
Yeah.
But understanding the mind to some degree, right, which includes what we're just talking about, nothing fancy, it's just useful. It's very useful.
Yeah, and then sometimes, like in those bubble situations, right? Like when you're in these environments without the stressors, then the story changes, and then when you get put back into that environment, nothing has really changed, right? So that's probably why it's really easy to get right back into the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if we're keeping these people for time, telling them that the longer you're away from it, the better you are. Time plays a part in this, but ultimately there needs to be a psychological shift. And the sooner that happens, then time is it's still a part of it's still valuable. It just it isn't responsible for doing all the heavy lifting.
Right.
Yeah.
Man,
There's a weight lifted with the understanding of that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Once that psychological
Then the body
shift
expresses it.
changes,
Yeah.
that's what needs to happen.
That's what we're doing.
Right.
That's what's happening.
Right.
Yeah,
I feel like we're gonna have to have a part 2.
Yeah.
that'd be
'Cause-
badass.
Yeah.
You
Sorry.
No.
can say that.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Nice.
This has been wonderful. And
Oh, thank you for being
I
here.
feel like it, you know,
I feel really dumb, but that's cool.
well, it's kind of like thinking about thinking
It's cool.
distracts the
I'll
thinker.
process it. Yeah.
And it's like, hurry up while he's distracted. Let's rearrange the furniture. You know? Then when he gets back, he's like, hey, I actually like it this way. Thanks. So
this is excellent. Thank
yeah,
you.
I think that this has been
So good.
very helpful. It's been helpful for us all sitting in here. Kale's over here transformed. So
Yes.
I have a stomach ache after that. I'm like,
This guy's freaking me out.
yeah. So, but let's just talk about before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Just tell us about, give us kind of the information on Centered Recovery, where you're
Yeah, thank you.
located, kind of what that process is like.
Sure.
And if people wanted to get more information, and do you got a relapse to go there? Because, you know, it sounds like you got some good information that some of us might want.
No, you don't. We are a commuter PHP, IOP, OP, so in Roswell off of Howes Road. Been there for over 6 years. Obviously, we're mindfulness based. I think what we do is very complementary to the steps. So there's several dimensions. One would be operating on the person as a narrative, right, with individual therapy and that kind of thing, having sponsors outside, and then doing what we do. We're out of network with all insurance providers. However, it's just subject to whatever your out of network deductible is. And the cool thing is, I think that we have figured out virtual, and we do it in a way that works. We've been doing
wow.
it since January 2019, so a year before COVID. I love technology. We've got Rode mics in our classroom. We've got multiple cameras, and they follow the facilitator. We've got a smart TV that we write on. We've got multiple TVs in the classroom, so the homeschoolers are seen by the people in group.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
Yeah. And I teach. This is my passion. This is like I could do this all day, every day, because I think it's, I learn as I talk it out. And if one person hears something that, you know, shifts something for it, it's definitely worth it. So we offer virtual programming to anyone in Georgia. So you could be in Conyers or
Yeah, that's cool.
Columbus. And then the other thing we do, because I do think that what we do is incredibly unique. I don't think anyone could do it if they wanted to do it. You know, it's just, I'm sure that's my ego. But we have people all over the world. I got a guy in Israel right now, a gentleman in Tampa that come to our groups. So you can pay for educational groups. We have breath work, which is amazing. Y'all should get this guy out here. Y'all would love him. We could come together. We do yoga, but there's a lot of teaching about what we're talking about. So our whole curriculum is designed to bring all of this out, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. You look at the box to see where the barn is. I'm the puzzle, the box, my groups. We have these high altitude talks like we're having here. And then
Wait, this was high altitude?
Thank you.
deep, yeah.
Thank you.
We
That
went,
makes me feel
jumped
a little
in.
more comfortable. I was in it.
What was I saying? And then the other groups are designed to build the barn,
Sure.
the fence, and all of this. And the cool thing is there's enough people that have had insights into this that it's kind of like a stew. The more people that are in there, the faster this thing just kind of picks you up.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say what you're doing is unique and refreshing.
So
and it's,
good.
And it's good to hear. We've had, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes about, you know, what can we do? Like what new things can happen to help, right? And you're obviously doing something that I think is helping, and it's a different approach. So I'm glad that you were here, and it's been helpful to us. So what's the website to go check you out?
CenteredRecoveryPrograms.com, or you can call me directly, 800-556-2966.
But wait, there's more.
yeah.
All right, man. Thank you for listening. This
Thanks
has been
for
an
having me.
episode of The Most High Show. Thank you for the donors and supporters who make
Yes,
this
sir.
kind of content possible. And we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.
So good.
Good stuff, man.
Fantastic.
Freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a intro?
I didn't.
He did one. Oh, thank you.
You were a different person.
Yeah.
That's
Everything that's changed since
that's
the
the
intro.
old. That's the other